Is the surname you carry right now really yours? Or is it the result of a global operation designed to disconnect you from your past, to make you forget your true origins? What I'm about to tell you today might be one of the most disturbing truths you've ever heard, because you're going to question the foundation of your identity, your family, and even your existence. I'm going to talk about a truth you've never read in history books, never been taught in school, but whose evidence lies hidden everywhere. The systematic erasure of the Tartarian Empire, and how millions of people's identities, surnames, and family histories were rewritten in this process. Yes, you heard that right. Your surname, your grandfather's surname, perhaps the identity you've carried for the last 5 generations, might actually be an artificial label given to you in the late 1800s or early 1900s. But why? Because your real name, your real lineage connected you directly to Tartaria, to that magnificent and mysterious civilization. And that connection had to be severed. The event we call the Great Reset wasn't just a physical destruction. It was also a societal memory erasure. Cities were destroyed, technology was hidden, buildings were buried in the ground. But most importantly, people were disconnected from their identities. Think for a moment. Why aren't there any photographs, letters, or documents in your family from before 1850? Why don't you know anything about your grandfather's grandfather? Because what happened during that period was so traumatic, such a massive rupture that people either lost their memories or were forced to lose them. And this is where the surname operation came into play. Remember the surname law that was enacted in the Ottoman Empire in 1934. What did they tell you? They said that everyone needed to be given a surname to become a modern society. But was that the truth? No. The truth is that people already had surnames. But these surnames pointed to Tartaria's regional structures, clan systems, ancient family trees. Names with the suffix son of, surnames ending in zaid, geographical region names. All of these told a story, and that story needed to be erased. The same operation took place simultaneously in Europe, America, and Russia. Did you know that the surnames of immigrants arriving at Ellis Island were converted to American-style names? They told you it was a practical application. But in reality, this was a way to sever the last ties to the old world, to Tartaria. When a Polish family's surname was changed from Kowalski to Smith, it wasn't just a name that changed. That family's connection to their ancient villages in Eastern Europe, their pre-Tartarian settlements, was cut off. So who did this? Who organized it? Here we encounter the founders of the New World Order, the banking families that rose after the Industrial Revolution, secret societies, global power centers. They weren't just after economic power. They wanted to control history, to rewrite the past. And the most effective way to do this was to make people forget their own past. Now let me tell you something even more disturbing. The royal families and aristocratic class never lost this knowledge. They still know. When European royal family trees are examined, there are detailed records extending back before 1800. Why? Because they are the continuation of Tartaria's ruling class. Blood ties were preserved, hidden, but never severed. Did you know that the real surname of the Windsor dynasty was Saxe-Coburg-Gotha? During World War I, they changed their name to hide their German origins. But this wasn't just a political move. It was also an effort to hide the real family tree extending to Tartaria. While ordinary people lost their surnames, the elites continued to protect their own archives, their own genealogies. Doesn't this remind you of something? Knowledge is always power, and the real power holders know history, origins, and bloodlines. You don't know because you were taught not to know. Now let's get to perhaps the darkest part. What happened to those who remembered? After the Great Reset, after the mud flood, some people remembered. They remembered their real names, the cities their families lived in, the old technologies, the lost civilization, and they were silenced. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, massive insane asylums were built in Europe and America. They told you these were health reforms. But in reality, these hospitals were designed to isolate from society people who remembered the past, who didn't conform to the system, who spoke of the old world. Lobotomy, electroshock, drug treatments. These were not used to cure diseases, but to erase memories. Think about it. What would happen when a person came out and said, "I saw these buildings being buried in the ground. We were part of a different civilization"? They would be labeled as insane, and they would be erased from society. This was systematic silencing. And it worked, because today, no one remembers anymore. Now I'm going to ask you the most important question. So what are you going to do? Have you researched your own surname? Can you access your family records from before 1850? Most likely not, because those records were either destroyed or made inaccessible. Birth records in churches, cemeteries, family Bibles. Most of these were lost in deliberate fires, wars, modernization, processes. Did you know that an extraordinary number of city fires, library fires, and archive losses occurred worldwide in the 1800s? Coincidence? Never. This was a planned destruction operation. Old books, maps, documents were systematically destroyed because they proved Tartaria's existence. And your family history was in those records too. Maybe your grandfather's grandfather was a high-ranking official in a region of Tartaria. Maybe your family was the guardian of an ancient science or art tradition. But you'll never learn this, because the new identity given to you, the new surname, completely erased that past. And this is why you feel rootless today. There's an emptiness inside you, a search for belonging, because you're carrying an identity that doesn't belong to you. Your real lineage, your real past was stolen. And in its place, you were given a number, a record, a state ID. You're no longer part of a family tree, but part of the system. So what should you do now? First, accept history is not as it was told to you. Then research. Look at the etymology of your own surname. In which period did it emerge? Which region does it come from? Where do the records cut off? And most importantly, share. Share this information with others, because this story isn't just yours. It's the story of all humanity. Tartaria's legacy belongs to all of us. And that legacy still lives in our surnames, in our DNA, in our subconscious. They tried to erase it, but they didn't completely succeed. Because truth can never be completely destroyed. It can only be hidden. And now the time for hiding is ending. Why aren't there any records in your family from before 1800? Is your surname really a legacy to you, or was it given to disconnect you from your past? When you start looking for answers to these questions, you'll never be the same again. Because when you access forbidden knowledge, there's no turning back. Welcome. The door to truth has now opened.